Chill out, son. You've got 2 minutes. All right, I'll introduce myself slowly. Because you met me already. So for this one, I'm head of music, media, and entertainment for Opinion. But I'm also chief economist for Live, the trade body who look after the live music industry in the UK. And I said in my first introduction that I added up live music industry for the first time. I'm just going to get closer, sorry. There's a speaker there giving me trouble. Unlike you lot, you speakers won't give me trouble. It'll be okay. So I said I added up live music for the first time in about 2008, 2009. When COVID hit, we did it again. And so if you saw any of the Let the Music Play campaign, that lovely green and yellow hashtag projected onto big buildings, or 4.5 billion in economic growth, 210,000 jobs sustained by the live music industry. That was the most recent time I added up the live music industry and snuck a part-time, full-time, part-time job on the back of it. Right, so we're going to talk about live music. It turns out, though, apart from this, well, let's talk about this for a second. Selling tickets is scary. I didn't know selling tickets was scary until I decided I was going to start a music company.
I'm surprised it took you this long to realise that.
Oh, no. The fear was immediate. The panic followed pretty soon after. And so
it's like making a party and then, is anyone going to come?
So you've sent the invites and you really are just hoping. So thank you.
Welcome to our world, yeah.
Yeah. So
every day.
Well, pretty much. So, all right, let's start with Nick. So Nick runs this venue. You've got another venue. Oh, tell us about yourself. Go on.
Run a live entertainment group. Quite focused in comedy, a touch point in music too, but it's called TTG, Ticketex Group. And started out ticketing, kind of online ticketing, helping artists sell tickets to fans. Your Mickey Flanagans, your Jason Manfords, those kind of guys, and the kind of long tail. A mutual friend of ours at Eventbrite said, we wish we were the you of comedy, which was quite a compliment.
Nice.
But it developed into ticketing into venues. We thought, what ticketing firm has its own venue? We thought, screw it, let's give it a go. And from there, it kind of developed further and further. We thought, let's do another. So we've got these two sites, one in King's Cross and this one here, and pushing 1,000 gigs a year at the moment.
All right, so hang on. 2 venues.
2.
365 days in a year.
Yeah,
help me out here. What's going on?
Turn the venue, turn it around. Sweat the assets. It's expensive in London.
So how many shows a night here?
Here, 2, typically. The King's Cross site gets to do a lot more, because that kind of Edinburgh-style 1-hour show, if we time it right, you can do 3, 4, even 5 in a day. Sometimes get show reports and go, how the hell did they do 6? It's amazing. I think our favourite day over here was something like Frank Skinner doing 5 till 6, and then Sarah Pascoe 8 till 9, Rob Beckett and friends 10 till midnight.
Amazing.
Sweat the asset.
Well, I mean, you've got the space, do it.
But
love that.
We'll touch on it, but it is that that anxiety of we've got a lot of tickets to sell. So
yeah. Amy.
Hello.
What's your name? Where you're from?
Sorry.
What's your name? Where you're from?
It's funny, I can't hear you.
What's your name?
Sorry, I'll listen.
I wonder if it's the giant Busby. But
I'm Amy. Hi, I'm from Dice, and I'm just going to make a quick housekeeping thing, which is I've just put your insurance premium up quite substantially because I'm 5 months pregnant and I'm sweating, and I think I might need a door open or something. So yeah, if I get a hot flush, it's not nerves, it's genuine hormones. I would, genuinely love. Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you.
No worries. You're very important to us.
Sure. Really excited for this one. We're on a mission to get fans out more. There's a lot of people out there trying to charge more and get as much out of a fan as possible, but our mission is to try and get them to go out and reconnect with the anthropological fact that we love experiences and connections. And I think the whole pandemic has really kind of stopped us from remembering that. I even looked in the mirror one day and was like, I think I like this life. I exercise next door, I have a screen and I speak to my colleagues, and you don't really remember how good it feels to go out until you go out again. So we are obsessed with getting people to reconnect with that feeling that shows make us feel great.
Oh, mate, amazing. And the thing you do remember is how annoying the tube is, how annoying the bus is,
yeah,
how annoying getting dressed is, leaving the house is. Like, we've got barriers to overcome.
Yeah. Thanks for the door, by the way.
No worries. No, you're both welcome. Christine, are we allowed to talk about what you now do?
I am. Hi, everybody. I'm Christina Sazwa. Despite the accent, I am based here in London. I am the UK Director for Women in Music and Gender Minority Community, She Said So. I run my own conference called Measure of Music, which is on music, tech, and data. It's also a hackathon. And fresh off the presses, literally, it's going to be announced today. I am the Chief Strategy Officer for ticketing company Shoobs.com.
Whoop, whoop.
Now, to my absolute shame, I didn't know about Shoobs till we had a chat. So let's just pretend it's only me who doesn't know. But can we just... Who?
Of course, Shoobs.com is a Y Combinator company. It is a ticketing company focused on Black music and culture. The founder, Louise, was the first Black British, actually the first Black woman to ever be in Y Combinator, actually. And it's been around for almost 10 years now, so I'm really excited to join the team and, get more people out, like Dice, get more people out, and then celebrate and highlight, Black culture, Black music. Thankfully, Black culture is culture, so getting people to go out and celebrate and enjoy that and embrace Afrobeats, hip hop, rap, grime, comedy, everything in between is really important. I'm really excited to be on board.
Amazing. Such good news. Sana, how you doing?
Hi, Chris.
What's your name, where you're from, what do you do?
So I'm Sana. I'm the GM for UK Nordics at Fever and Secret Media Network. I've been at Fever for a little less than 2 years, but I actually met the founders in March of 2020. And I was interviewing with Fever, and we were wining and dining, and then literally the next day, the city went into lockdown. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Madrid was one of the first cities to really have a big lockdown. And I barely made it back home to my husband in London. And I thought, okay, probably now is not the right time to join a tech startup in the entertainment industry. I had a global pandemic. So we paused conversation on both sides. And within a couple of months, naturally, the founder phoned me and he said, Sana, we've grown as though there was no pandemic. So for me, this was kind of an aha moment that Fever is really doing something different. And what we're doing different is using our global insights and tech platform to make really smart decisions. And one of the smart decisions at this time was the Stranger Things drive-in-through experience in LA, which is a COVID-friendly format. You drive up in your car and you drive through a parking lot, essentially in a mall, and you have, Secret Cinema was a partner of ours, so actors jumping out at you, Demogorgons running around. And that ended up being the biggest experience in the world during that time, during COVID times, which 350,000 attendees. So that's a bit about Fever and me.
Amazing. What is your favourite among the raft of events you do? What's your favourite? Because I'm in your marketing funnel, I see all this amazing stuff.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, the one that I went to last was the Stranger Things experience. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, again in partnership with Netflix. It's really cool and high tech, and it's not just for the fans. So if you guys are interested, hit me up.
Amazing. Yeah, everyone heard that, right? So everyone's going to meet you after. Perfect. We'll do a fast forward day out. Anyone want to sell the tickets?
Everyone's invited.
So how do we help get people out more? So favourite artist playing, cool, that'd be interesting. How do you guys go about provoking demand? Because I look at ticketing companies, they take a service fee, not all of them, but usually, take a service fee. What are you actually doing to add value, if I'm really mean? Because I see the promoter taking all the risk, I see booking agent taking less risk, I see the artist, running around a little bit. Ticketing is just a utility. Like, what are you doing for your keep? Help me out here.
I mean, I can start a bit. I've been ticketing before. I'm back in ticketing again, but really, it's the marketing piece. Really, it's a lot of discovery, especially if you live in a city like London or even Manchester or elsewhere. There is a lot going on. Every single day, there's a lot going on. So it's the marketing component of it. It's identifying what's going on, identifying what to recommend to people, why it makes sense for them, looking at things things that they were going to before, people like them, what they like as well, and identifying the thing that's the right fit for them. One of the toughest parts about figuring out what to do when to go out is figuring out what to do when to go out, essentially. So if you can help alleviate that friction, I think that's one of the things that ticketing companies can provide. Obviously there's a lot of things on the platform. Shoobs, we've had 8,000 organizers over the years. There's so much on the platform, but really it's matching the event to the person is really what makes a ticketing company, a helpful partner for our organizers.
Yeah, I definitely echo those sentiments. And ticketing looks easy when it goes well, but when ticketing fails when it fails. It goes badly wrong. And for us, the biggest thing is to maintain and build the trust, and just remember that the fan is at the heart of everything that we do. Because as soon as you lose sight of that, you've actually lost creating the demand. So for us, it's things like building the wait list. We've seen the wait list go up by 56% since post-pandemic. Making sure that our fan support is absolutely shit hot.
And sorry, so wait list, can you just explain how that works, just in case people don't?
Sure. So I've bought a ticket to a sold out show. I can't go anymore. The wait list is turned on. I send my ticket back to a queue, and the person in the queue, done by whatever time you joined, gets an opportunity to buy the ticket at the same face value. So it's an ethical way for fans to resell to fans very safely and securely, and it keeps tickets off secondary, which is ace. So again, the whole method is, how do you build trust? And I think that's the piece that we've got to focus on while getting people out more. Everyone's feeling really bruised, and I think people are looking at, things like ticket prices. So how do you stay very transparent with that? And yeah, it's all those wonderful things.
Perfect.
In the same vein, we exactly that same way. The waitlist function is such an important way. We've got the zero policy with touts, much like a lot of ticketing companies and Fanfare Alliance, which was great, obviously kicking off at the start. But the utilization of our data, which was found, is integral. Right? So actually mapping, comedy's typically, it's slightly different to music. You kind of want to hear the new joke, you want to hear the new bit of content. You don't want to hear that same song, but you might like this type of comedy. You might want to go and see this similar type of comic. So we can then kind of match that data. It's a big data set, really, and harnessing it properly and actually deploying it in the right way. And we found that is just paramount to our promoters.
Perfect. So from a comedic point of view, I kind of get you, like, this kind of jokes, this kind of person might work for you. I mean, Sana, for yourself, creating fairly high-risk events, massive upfront cost. This is basically the bit that terrifies me. This is the purpose of this panel. It's like, how do you sleep? I think is probably my question. Like, how do you go about making that big decision that you can take something from screen and make it not just immersive and live, but actually match the quality caliber of that other experience in a live environment? Like, what do you do to start that process? How does it work?
Well, I don't sleep. I have a 1-year-old. But more seriously, I think that there is a real marriage to be had between creative producers and creative thinkers and content creators and using data insights. So I think one of the things that I've learned that is really powerful is, how do you de-risk certain risky creative decisions using some insights that you have. It's, Chris, you're a big fan of surveys, and that's a great starting point. I think what more you can do is not just ask people what's important, but actually observe people observe people doing things to figure out what is important, and then marrying these two things together. I think what we try and help creators do is, when they have a great creative idea, to help them understand, okay, these are the things that will move the needle for you, given the costs that you incur as a result of this decision. And these are the decisions that actually, they seem important, but it doesn't impact the overall satisfaction of customers. And so how do you make these smart decisions? Data cannot take away from the creative process. You need to start with the creators, but then you can help creators take more risky decisions, knowing that the risk parameters, are lower than what they thought it was.
I've got a piece to add to that, because I think to layer over the top of that is about the quality of the event and the partner that you're actually working with. So for us at DICE, we're still a curated platform. We have a whole team of people out making sure that the partners that we're working with are the creme de la creme, and we're not working with any charlatans, because fans vote with their feet. You fill rooms by being, again, looked after. And we noticed that the brands and the promoters that are really focusing on building communities that have a strong essence of, that spirit that you want at an event, they're the ones that are thriving. So I think we can do all we can with building fantastic tech for good and softwares, but as long as we're working with the people who are driving high quality experiences, like, that's when we're going to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's actually an incredibly interesting point. So our venue in King's Cross, we particularly use it for the kind of newer promoter. It's a slightly higher risk type of shows because of they have to be given a chance at some point, but it's a way to kind of, give them this opportunity that they may not normally got before, but allow them to step up to that next level, which then kind of attracts the attention of the others. But we do find a lot that don't necessarily work because they haven't kind of built the right community, they've not taken certain things seriously, and we try and work that out very quickly, and then kind of graduate up the ranks through the kind of venue sizes, and we help with our kind of other venue partners too. But it's such an important kind of culture and ethic that we try and instill in them as well.
Yeah, and well, I think good content is good content, great content is great content. I like Amy's point about not being in the way of the fan. So if you create, ticketing can create friction. I say, looking slightly nervously at Christine's handwritten badge, because, you know, when you get ticketing wrong, it's really embarrassing. Yeah, but what, Nick, running a venue looks tough right now, right?
I mean, you know, you name it.
Yeah, mate, live entertainment.
It's tough, you know, no matter what you do, it's live. You know,
Yeah,
someone
mate.
can pull a thing, someone can push a button that
And-
they shouldn't have pushed,
There we go. Anyway.
or not fix the aircon.
Or not fix the aircon, but that's all right. So I'm still fascinated. So many things you can do. What's your hierarchy of decision making? How do you choose? Do people come to you and say, we want to do this, it's a bit out there, how about it? And then Amy, I think the same question, and Christine as well. Like, how do you get involved with talent? Like, so, all right, that marriage point is huge. How do you find those people with whom you want to be in relationship? Oh, well played, that man.
That's nice. It's a good question. I guess one of the risky projects that we work on, maybe I can give a case study to make it real. One of our partners had a crazy idea to run a first-time festival in the Pyrenees in an extraordinarily remote mountain in Spain. And we said, yeah, it's a great idea. I think when you realize the goal that you're trying to achieve, right? So these are the fans that we're trying to engage. This is the specific qualities of this audience. And then try and tie that into what that experience is delivering, right? So there are a lot of people who want to go there to be with their friends. A lot of people want to go there for the mountains. Some people want to go there for the specific talent that is playing there. So it's really about having a real focus on who your target audience is and what are the goals that you're trying to achieve, and then make the right decision, you know. And then sometimes these risky decisions end up paying off because it ended up being a sold-out experience. Polar Sound, and festivals are incredibly risky businesses. You know, I mean, there was one partner that we were working with in Bordeaux for a music festival, and it just so happened on that day, it was the hottest day on record in Bordeaux with like 40 degrees Celsius, and the airport shut down. And we couldn't fly our talent in. So there's a lot of real-time things that are happening, and then, and managing this, navigating this can be extraordinarily difficult because it can take you from profitability into loss within minutes. So how do you make these right decisions? This is a very tricky thing to solve for, but you have to have your target audience in mind and make sure that the risks that you're taking are worth it.
First of all, that's so stressful.
You can't insure for that. So.
Like, just so stressful. So I think one thing that's interesting about Shoobs is it's not really a curated platform in and of itself. It's more of a playground. A lot of our promoters, a lot of our organizers range from first-time organizers to, we partner up with like the likes of Live Nation as well. So we really kind of span the gambit. But what's really exciting about spanning the gambit is that we have a lot to kind of work with. So, we have people that are doing immersive experiences that are around album 10-year anniversaries, that are a food, smell, touch, feel situation that like that's cool. Let's try that out, see if it works. We have tickets on sale for Kendrick Lamar, in Manchester. All that's happening on the same platform. So one thing that we are really excited about is that we can provide experiences to people that span everything they want to do. So if you're doing dry January and don't want to have a drink that night, you have that option. If you want to do something that's going to take all day, you have that option. If you're bringing your family in town, you want to take them to a comedy show that's not going to be wildly offensive, you have that too. And so one thing that's really interesting, kind of the opposite some ways, is that, initial question, we take on a lot of the risk because they're first-time promoters that, if it doesn't work out, they can close up shop at any point in time and we're still there. And we've been there for 10 years. So that's another thing that we're kind of offering, is that people trust us rather than sometimes the promoter or the organizer, because that might be a brand new one. But we've been around for so long, they know that if something went wrong, if the venue was shut down, if the artist didn't turn up, whatever it might be, that we're going to help them. We're going to give them a refund. We're going to get them tickets to the next show. We're going to get them a VIP ticket or whatever it might be to make sure that they feel comfortable coming back to us over and over again.
Well, yeah, and I joke about, what does a ticketing company even do? And obviously very playful because lots of respect for you all. But you are on the front line when it doesn't work, whether it was your fault or not. And that's quite an interesting place to be.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic is probably the most challenging experience I'm ever going to have in my career. All ticketing companies are set up like a conveyor belt. You're not meant to go that way. You're not meant to do hundreds and hundreds of thousands of refunds and merchant banking systems, etc. And our original site weren't set up for that.
Well, and then reschedule 6 times.
I mean, we just give up.
Let's have the therapy session. Come on, guys. Save space now. Boris has declared it over, so we're okay. We'll see. But, I mean, how was it? As a ticketing company, you probably had the roughest of times on that front line. Innovation, wait lists, great. Accepting that more people will drop out, probably more fan utility as a result of that, which is great. Cutting off secondary market, no trouble with that. Don't mind that at all. And being the one-stop shop for fans. But how on earth did you manage relationship through that time?
Oh, I think that's where relationships flourish. If you're a company that can show up for people, it's only going to serve you well. And I went to a couple of license hearings. We were doing things that were way beyond the day-to-day and getting stuck in with everyone's chaos. Because it was chaotic and people needed so many different things. And we had promoters whose livelihoods were completely on the line, obviously. So for us, it was a deep time of creativity. We obviously launched our streaming offering, which I think we thought was going to be a much more prevalent role in creating demand for the return to live, and we still see a future in the role of streaming. But that was an amazing opportunity for us to help a lot of artists, especially, stay engaged with their fan base and make quite decent cash. Not for the more emerging artists because it was, proving quite cost prohibitive. But it was a turbulent time. It was definitely squeaky bum time, and you can see what's coming, especially working in Europe. The European markets were shutting down first, and we're like, this is coming quite quickly. We're really proud of how we moved through it. But
did that help? Seeing stuff coming up and seeing how you can slightly get ahead of other things?
It does, but it definitely does. But unfortunately, the European markets felt it first, and they're still our team, so we didn't have the foresight there. But I think each market is also so different with how they've reacted and how they've recovered. But yeah.
Which market recovered best? Which was your favourite European market?
Italy's been really slow, it's Italy, France. By the way, has anyone ever been on holiday in Italy in August? Because all the Italians are also on holiday in Italy in August at the beach within the same square mile. It's quite amazing. Just discovered that this August. The European markets were quickest to go into it and slower to recover. UK is, for us, bouncing back. Your beautiful, complicated graphs. It's been a really enjoyable experience getting creative and playful, but there's still a long way to go, I think, yeah.
Reminds me of a point you made at Star recently about, was it 15% of those aren't even returning to the pub?
Yeah.
So tragic.
The thing that has the end of your road.
If
we can't get people to go to the pub, how am I to get them to live entertainment?
And please book 6 months in advance and give us your money.
Exactly, yeah. But I think it's to echo the sentiment about, ticketing companies is when I wear the promoter hat, it's about reach and marketing. You want to hit every outlet we possibly can. So we work with Dice, and I know partners of ours work with Shoes as well, and Fever. Not yet, but potentially after this. But then it's, against myself, it's the ticketing company as well.
Go.
So for us, what was interesting, I wasn't there yet, but me and my boss, we were having conversations, during the pandemic as well. And what's interesting is one thing we had going for us is our average ticket price is quite low, actually, because we're talking about first-time promoters and organizers. Sometimes they're just club nights, sometimes they're concerts, but they really range across what the pricing is. So if it was like a £5 gig, you were good to just let it go, or it'll get rescheduled eventually and you're cool with it, rather than if it was your £200 gig to Rolling Loud or Afro Nation, no, I need that money back. But a lot of people were good to just hold on to that £5, and they were like, oh, we'll give you a credit for the next one later. They're like, cool, that's fine. So we did have this advantage advantage of just like not everything being so unaffordable that people weren't willing to do it. So, you know, it's like that night out at the pub. A lot of our tickets are equivalent price to like, oh, you're going to a comedy show for like £5. And so that was one of the ways where the company stayed afloat during the pandemic, because basically our pricing was actually quite low and manageable, basically.
Yeah, fair.
And to add to that, the piece around, I think one of your things was fans are worried that they're not going to get refunds. That's a lot of the hard work that goes behind the scenes, is having conversations with promoters to say, look, don't cut your nose off to spite your face. You need these guys to come back time and time again. If you don't give refunds now, honestly, they'll just walk away. So I think that's been the biggest piece as well.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to an extent, the live music ticket was amongst the most inconvenient tickets in the world at a point in time.
I mean, one of the things about looking forward is that that ticket price we kind of operate, you're typically recession-proof, because
And so that ticket price range with sub 20 quid, sub 25?
Yeah, sub 25, sub 30, yeah. And you know, when you get over that, you're getting into your Apollos and your O2s. You know, it's not just the kind of on the whim night out. It's the hotel, it's the babysitter, it's the restaurant, it's the whole works, where that's what you're going to be cutting. But you're kind of more affordable, that kind of the MVT Music Venue Trust kind of tier of venues is that more affordable disposable cash. You might not eat at the fancy restaurant, but you still go to your local pizza place. It's the exact same vein.
And when everyone's having a shit time, they want to feel good.
Exactly.
So that's the thing to hold on to.
I think to Amy's point, that it was actually a time to really be innovative and collaborative and rebuild the relation, or improve relationships and deepen relationships with our partners. I think COVID was interesting because I think COVID was not uniform across the world. So as COVID hit one city, we knew from other cities what consumer behavior would look like once the city opened up. And so what we were able to do with a lot of the partners that we're working with is give them the insights that, hey, this is the situation now, but if you prepare for what's to come, you can pivot quickly and recover quickly. And so we loved working with partners to help them build a strategy around how to build COVID-friendly formats across the globe, how to prepare for what's to come, and give them some insight into the future in a very uncertain time. And I think this is one of the key collaborative things that we could do to strengthen relationships during this time.
Yeah, interesting. We're going to come up for audience questions in a moment, so feel free to put your thinking caps on. Making this very practical for the artists in the room or the people on the front line now. At that low sub £20 price point, relatively low I mean, £20 is a lot of money, but relatively lower end of the market, grassroots venues, how do we get people out? How do artists help their fans get back to live? What do you think, what message is going to cut through, and how do they get it out there? No pressure.
We've seen the kind of intimate shows become more and more appealing. So typically bigger acts doing smaller gigs, and obviously it's a supply and demand issue. You're physically restricted by the amount we can get the room, but a lot of artists seem to want to go and do those type of gigs instead of doing it just for the money, instead of doing the O2 playing to a washout of lights. They'd rather be able to see the whites of their kind of fans' eyes. So seeing them kind of harness their socials in better ways to translate that into a ticket sale for more intimate, not necessarily more expensive, but we find it definitely in our venues that much bigger talent is coming through and not wanting to play arenas, playing more affordable ticket prices.
And adding playing unusual spaces. And I know this is a well-established venue, but it's got something different about it. So I think the more you can get people to experience novel things, get them to re-engage with that. Oh, I feel this is really exciting, not in a box. I think that's super important as well.
And in the same way, I think we're seeing a huge move away from your Live Nations and your TMs, because the behind the scenes, as I'm sure we all know, the fingers in the till, and there's a lot of newer promoters coming through that are being cleaner and working better with the artists and kind of more direct to consumer, direct to fan, and skipping out so much of that noise in between. And it does then lean more on the ticketing company to go and be the marketeer and help. And naturally it's going to change the deals behind the scenes, but they're there to help sell those tickets and empower the artist a bit better.
And I think a big part of it, I think Amy mentioned it before, is around the fan experience. It's, what are you actually offering up to your fans? Like, what is it that's going to make this gig different than any other gig they've experienced?
What beer is on tap?
Right. What, like, when you go to
That's actually a big point. It
Right,
is.
no, if you've been to a
those
perfect
other, those
gig,
other
right?
things, you go to it too. It's a £10 Budweiser.
Right.
And you go.
But if you know your audience well, and hey, my audience is the type of audience that's going to love craft beer, or my audience doesn't care, or my audience is going to expect food. Like, if you have all these components, even if the food costs additional money, but like if you have all these components of like, this is exactly what my audience wants. This is what I know they want. This is why data and insights is really important, and understanding who your audience is really important. Because if you can incorporate those little touches, those here and there tiny little touches that makes it an elevated experience, that's what people are going to be willing to pay 20, 30, 40 quid for, as opposed to like, okay, cool, I'm going to roll over to the O2 and see this show, and it's going to be any old artist could have been on stage, and the same beer is going to be served, the same this and that's going to be served. So I think those like things like what Fever does, that's the stuff that's really exciting and really interesting, and what I believe is like what the future of live really looks like, is really knowing your audience. And then there's another component of it that I think is really, really quite important, is identifying who are the tastemakers and identifying who are the people that can see into the future, essentially. With Shoes, we sold tickets for like Stormzy and Cardi B like 5-6 years ago, and like there was those organizers, those promoters that saw something in these artists before they were huge, that said, hey, we're gonna put them on the stage. And I think that's also the really exciting bit, is like being that person. It's like, oh yeah, I saw Stormzy in 2014 or whatever it might be. Like, that's exciting. And those opportunities, those are the things you couldn't get during a live stream in the pandemic, is those opportunities like, oh, I was there first, and harnessing that and leveraging that is like the stuff that like delights me, and I think delights fans too.
And those promoters really shone through in the pandemic. I mean, they were like, we are not going down. We are coming back with creativity. We are coming back with innovation. And that was what was so exciting, and still is exciting. It's happening every day.
Those are our favorites to work with, because they actually care. Yeah. They give a shit. They want to help. They want to do more. They want to actually be more creative, as you say. And typically, the bigger ones we've worked with were more challenging and less understanding through the pandemic.
And you used the phrase treadmill earlier. I think the bigger you are, sometimes the more it is a process, and things go through the machine. I mean, not always, but can be.
Part of the answer is also in innovating a little bit, right? So we know that the younger generations, millennials and Generation Zs, they're more interested in purchasing experiences than they are things, which is a big difference, right? So people are really looking to build memories, enjoy things, and they're valuing this much more than purchasing a China set, which is my grandma really wanted to get me. But and then it's about how do you figure out what it is that they are looking for, because it is a competitive market and innovating on formats, right? So one example, is we're working with the Royal Halls in Madrid to help get new audiences to their classical music venue. And classical music is, typically 3 hours long. It's quite an expensive price point. It's not really accessible to a large, say, millennial audience. And so, we said, have you thought about maybe adjusting your format a little bit to make it a bit more accessible? And, some people looked at us and said, and this is back in 2018 where we had zero credibility, that we've been doing this longer than you have, not just for decades, but for millennia.
You have to politely ask how it's going and why we're in the room at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, and we've been doing this for millennia longer than you. We know what we're doing, so thank you, goodbye. And, we worked with local producers in Madrid to create, an experience that was 1 hour long. It was a lower price point. It was in an intimate, smaller venue like this one, and flooded with candles to make it a bit more immersive and Instagrammable. And then when we went on sale, we realized that the demand for this was not a Vivaldi or a Bach. It was more like a Lady Gaga. And so, that was a new format that we've been working with local producers globally now to scale up, and it's been an enormous success. So it's really about finding how to innovate, adjusting with the times, not resting on your laurels, being creative and innovative to cut through the noise, to deliver experiences that are memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got 100 more questions. Are there any burning questions in the audience before I just keep going? Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, first of all, thank you for the great discussion. I had a question regarding the data and that you guys all collect, and how much of this data do you guys keep to yourself, and how much do you then share with the event organizer or the club that you guys are working with?
What do you collect, and do you have secrets?
I mean, anything that's GDPR compliant that's been opted in, we pass on to all promoters instantly, so it's available for them to use and download. we obviously do a bit more behind the scenes about kind of engineering, a bit of a data lake that we've created, mapping certain things and looking at certain trends, and we tie into the venues as well, so building that kind of bigger customer profile.
And so, presumably at that point, you're adding metadata like the type of comedy show. Maybe they bought early, they bought late. How much the price point was?
They love 5 points. They love X comedian. They're likely to like ABCD as well, and cross market, and it's it's a key tool in our arsenal.
Same with the GDPR piece. I think the added layer is not just handing over raw data, but really helping partners and promoters and managers and agents interpret it and understand the stories that are coming through. So that's a really big focus for us, is how do we make that more of a kind of self-service experience where you can just log into the back end and already you can see, down to borough of London where your fans are coming from, but also what else they've bought tickets to, how often they're going out, what age they are. There's so many different things that can be told, but it's helping interpret it that's the most important piece.
That borough piece is important as well, because then the promoter can go in and go, well, actually, I never thought we were doing a show in
Wandsworth.
Exactly.
Hey, there we go. Lots happening in Wandsworth. You heard it here first.
Oh, Wandsworth.
I saw that.
these trend spotters. Hey.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
add,
go on, please.
So like I mentioned, I joined Shoots about a month ago, but part of the reason they brought me on is because I am a data scientist. So that's quite cool.
Super cool.
Thank you.
Again, let's chat after.
And so what we're doing, like the rest, we are GDPR compliant as well. Our promoters and organizers have access to the emails and the purchasers and things like that. But we are working to build in more of that information, more to help them, more the abilities to understand their audience, especially at scale. We have promoters that have been on the platform for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, so they have lots of data they will be sussing through to kind of get anything done, even just looking at their own data rather than everyone else as well. So figuring out good ways to approach that is something that I'm actively working on, because I think that's what's going to really help push them over the edge for not just understanding the audiences, but doing things like reaching out to sponsors, reaching out with brands, talking with new artists and new people they want to work with. Having that arsenal with you is really quite important, and sometimes feels like it's only reserved for very important business people doing very important things, when it could also be your £5 show down the road also needs sponsors, also might need VC money or whatever it might be, or for you to progress. So having that in your tool deck is really important.
Brilliant. So if I was to summarise, so next question, please raise your hand, get involved. Whoever you can get to. And sorry, so on that, the summary is collect as much data as you can, GDPR compliant, share it with as many people as you can, but add value to it, enrich it, and then make it useful to someone rather than just going, oh, spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet.
Gotcha.
Cool, hello. Thank you very much for the panel, really, really good. So I'm partially sighted, and I also work for a charity that's aiming to improve access to live events and music more generally. I'm just wondering who it is, out of the promoter and the venue and the ticketing company that kind of takes the lead on accessibility, and if there's anyone that kind of pushes for it and makes sure that the promises are kind of met all the way through for events.
Great question.
With the venue hats on, absolutely, the venue will take it. It's the most important thing from our side. We have to make sure that we do everything we physically can. Obviously, we're restricted. This is a 300-year-old, 250-year-old building. There's only certain things we can do physically in here, but both our other sites are as deoccupied as we possibly can be. And then leveling it up. The promoter, we've seen a kind of swing with promoters wanting to be as accessible as possible. So we're seeing it kind of go all the way up the food chain, really, and then ticketing companies obviously doing everything they possibly can, but again, you are restricted to certain things, but we've always got helplines, other ways to kind of purchase that ticket, or box office on site as well. But from a venue point of view, yeah, we do everything we can to help as best possible. Because again, that kind of thing, we care, we give a shit. Of course we want to try and help. And running the phone lines isn't the favourite thing for the staff to do, but it's a necessity. And we're even surprised how much business comes through by it. So it's something we're absolutely going to keep going through, despite being tech focused and tech driven. Always going to do that.
Was there a question at the front? Is that Harriet?
Can I just add, I'd love to speak to you afterwards, because it's a massive thing for us at DICE. An app is quite inaccessible for people who are hard of sight or hearing, or all these things. And yeah, there's a lot of work that we're doing, so I'd love to chat to you afterwards.
Perfect.
Hey, so apologies if you answered this at the beginning. I just missed the beginning of the talk. And also apologies if it's a bit insular, but I don't think I'm going to get access to you for at the same time. So I have a live event brand that we're now looking at what to do with next. So pre-COVID, historically, it built really nice momentum, artists, brand, everything. And the discussion right now is high volume, low ticket price. So either going to loads and loads of venues and doing a lower ticket price, or doing lower. So option A would be, running around all the different venues doing loads of events. Option B is a higher ticket price and more people, a music festival. So in your opinion of what you're seeing right now in all the different areas you work in, do you have where would you move toward in terms of those options? And finally, Christine, is it Shrooms, the company?
Shoobs, SHOOBS. It's a slang
I'm
term
glad.
for party.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm gonna go for the. Actually, it was just one question, wasn't it? Yeah, shoobs. I do like shrooms though. Well, I don't like
Well,
shrooms.
hang on.
Sorry, babe. This
Maybe
baby's
not
gonna
now.
be
Different kind of
really
party.
weird. Some wacky backy baby. I've really
So much
distracted
worse that your
myself.
president said that.
My answer is going to be very diplomatic and slightly irritating, which is you're at two ends of the spectrum that are both doing really well. And I feel like a blend would be brilliant, but it really is worth understanding what the type of content there is so that you can sit with someone in the team to look at the similarities of other promoters who are doing similar things. But if you can have an offering for both ends, then fantastic. Very
One thing
diplomatic
it is,
answer.
festival sites, if it's much higher risk, so much more infrastructure needs to be put in. Whereas if you are using a venue, naturally it's more plug and play, so the risk will be naturally so much lower. But there might be a hybrid option in there, because there's also the fixed time cost, that cost benefit analysis of, no matter how many shows you do, there's still even the admin of each show, the remittances, the settling, the dealing with the venue, the marketing of each show. There's that kind of volume negative, which is just going to take up so much time. So it's kind of weighing up that balance between maybe it's slightly bigger shows, or maybe it's not quite the festival, but what would be an alternative to actually going to go and build it in this site. And you do have licensing, infrastructure, the power, everything that goes with it. That are just such big headaches. It's hard enough running a physical venue, let alone a festival site.
From an actual kind of business model point of view, taking out the ticketing company, the various platforms, the venue, are you seeing the actual promoters making a decent income from the live space?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Very much so.
perfect. We've got time for one more quick question if someone's keen. Nick, you're conveniently placed and you've had your hand up for ages. This works well.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the panel. My question is really simple. I used to work at a major label during the pandemic, and conversations
sorry.
around...
Kidding,
I
used to
also
work
worked
for
at
them,
major label
teasing,
during the
teasing.
pandemic.
To be fair, I don't work there anymore. More pertinently, though, there were a lot of conversations around live streaming, and I would love to know, with the experience and the perceptions of everyone on the panel, do you think it has a future? And what do you think of it going forward?
Amazing. Let's go that way across and then we'll close the panel.
One thing that is great about live streaming is that it's very accessible. And that's really important, that I think sometimes is lost on people when they're like, oh, I want to be on my computer all day. But there's a lot of people that can't go out for lots of reasons. A lot of people that probably couldn't be in this room today because of lots of reasons, and that makes it more accessible. And so it's really important for that reason. That being said, if you're going to do a live stream, you have to make sure it's distinct than just watching a YouTube video that already exists. I think sometimes people are like, cool, we're gonna point a single camera, and there's gonna be a band playing on stage or whatever it might be, and then that's live stream. That is not enough. I can just go watch like a dozen other videos of them already doing that. So what is it that's going to make it more important, more impactful? One of the big things that I think people fail to do a lot is how you incorporate the community into it, how you lead up to it like you would a regular festival, if it is selling merch, if it is having a forum or a chat. There was one thing I went to during the pandemic, it was just this guy that created this like Spotify playlist, and it was like all around like old school Warped Tour bands basically. And he just made a playlist and everyone listened to it at the same time. And there was
Amazing.
a Facebook group about it. It cost no money. There was nothing. People made their own merch. It was an incredible experience, and nothing happened there. Like you can do so much with very little. And I think sometimes that's lost on people, and instead they go for like, all right, we're gonna have 12 cameras in the room. Like that's cool, but like, who cares, basically.
Amazing.
The volume of streaming at the beginning of the pandemic was vast. I think we had 7,000 streaming applications in 24 hours. It was amazing. It was cacophony of chaos. And then it kind of went down, and at the same time the quality was going up, but it also meant that it was becoming more inaccessible for emerging artists. And that's where I think everyone's got a little bit confused. But what we're really clear on is that narrative is number one. So if what Christian's saying, if you don't have a reason outside of just doing a stream, then you've kind of lost your opportunity. I think the future of streaming is going to go through a similar change that football went through. So football before, 90-minute game, you'd watch it and that would be it. And now you've got about 6 hours of content. You've got the preamble, the post-amble, the live-amble, the everything. And I think streaming is going to play an amazing part in adding richness to concerts and to experiences that kind of create value for a fan. And that's really exciting.
Love that. Nick, no pressure, no time. With good luck.
You're going to get that added value of the behind the scenes. It's the things you don't normally see because you've got to provide this value, right? And one of the problems that we've seen in live streaming is there's just a lot of shit out there. There's a lot of nonsense that shouldn't be streamed, and also a lot of doesn't necessarily have to be live, but as live, because there's so many problems and challenges again that come with doing live. And it's not always necessary. And I know you guys did a fantastic job with James Acaster's As Live, which was a huge success in our industry as well. And it showed that you don't have to just do it as a live stream, and also making it available beyond the live too. So we've seen people, you buy a 48-hour pass or you buy a weekend pass, but to go and actually watch it over the weekend. I think it's the quality of the show because not everything has to be live stream. Also putting proper production value in.
And then for Sana, who of course is the most physical event of all of us,
Yeah,
what do you think?
Maybe a biased answer, but I think one of the things that we saw was, of course, during the pandemic, 100% of our content was, online or streaming of some sort. And we saw within hours, the minute things opened up, people switched to in real life experiences. And there is this great demand, and it will always be there, of in real life shared experiences that are memorable. And that's where
Brilliant.
I am.
So if I was to summarise again, because bad habit, there's opportunity for it, but it's got to have a strong narrative, it's got to connect, it's got to do something slightly different. It can't just be rewatching an old video. If you're going to put 12 cameras in, good Lord, who's paying for that? And it won't really compete with a live music event in quite the same way, but it can extend the experience. I think that's all the time we have, but Amy's got her mic, so go on.
I just want to say a massive thank you to you for creating some fresh energy in the circuit that is pretty bland and bleak. And I think I said to you when you said, do you want to come and talk? I was like, not if it's like, actually I won't say where.
Good catch.
But
Good
not
catch,
if
good
it's
catch.
like, and you were like, I promise you it's not. And it really isn't. It's great. So thank you and well done because it's hard work.
Thank you. Well, that was nice, wasn't it? Thanks. Guys, amazing. And thank you all for being different to the norm as well and relaxing and having fun while we're here. Appreciate it. Smashing panel. Love that. Learned a lot. And yeah, thank you very much.